in the bleak, harsh depths of the midwinter gloom, there is miles away somewhere that's still pretty cold. The suburbanite makes his way into the early evening light. This, for those of you who don't know, is Northwood, otherwise known as Rickmansworth Golf Course, of which a certain part of it is in Northwood. Over there in the distance there's a control room for social dust-ups that might be being had around usually Europe, otherwise known as the NATO base. That lot over there is ex-Premier League Watford. This lot, just past these white posts, well, that lot in there, that's Moor Park Golf Course, that's private. You have to be a member to wander on that. You probably have to pay as well. But this isn't private. A lot of people think that the road that runs along here, Eston's Road, that is private. It's not. Most of us can freely believe that governments aren't particularly beneficial, as in they don't like just giving their money out freely. And I can assure you that that road there was resurfaced at taxpayers' expense. Still not government money, is it, I suppose? But anyway, they don't tend to do that for private roads. Forgive the sarcasm. Don't know what they are, don't know where they are. I do know that there are allegedly apps that can listen to those and tell you what they are. I downloaded one and it didn't do that, it did something else. I don't remember what it did, but it did so not what I wanted it to do that I didn't even get to try and use it. But there are apparently apps where you can have it listen and it will tell you. There are humans that can do that as well. I'm not one of them. I could tell you if it was a 6-cylinder or an 8-cylinder, or I used to be able to until they turned into what they are now. I'm using my other hand because I am cold. So in the UK, everyone's had a piece of this to a greater or lesser extent. But this is actually my first little wandering out into it. And it's a little bit rude of me because the 3rd, 4th place playoff of the World Cup, which I was actually looking forward to watching, I had a feeling that Morocco wouldn't really get it together for one last little hurrah and celebration. But we shouldn't doubt them because they've really entertained in this tournament, and I thought it'd be good to see them have another little go. But it started to turn into one of those days where I wasn't going to go outside again, and there's been too many of those this week. So I yanked myself out of the settee, past the half-assembled Christmas tree, and for a little walk around the block, which I'm now sharing with you lucky people. Yeah, my 6th sense told me that some silence was probably needed. There's some shooting in the background. There's I can't remember. Does it begin with H? There's a hunting. Oh my word. Holland and Holland. Thank you, Paul. Holland and Holland. Oh, that's somebody's house actually. He's got a bell tower in his front garden. Lovely house with amazing gardens, which I have pictures of actually. I'll share at some point, since it was a public open day and we were allowed to take photos, so I'm sure I can share. Plus I think it belonged to a previous owner at that particular point in time. So anyway, Holland and Holland with I think a royal warrant or seal or whatever is the shooting club or gun club. What do they actually call it? Call it something a little bit more subtle than that. That's just up the road. Duckfield Road, it's like probably a mile away, something like that, maybe a tad more. Lived here for 24 and a half years nearly, and I actually didn't find that place until I think it was in the summer, or was it last summer? It might have been last summer, so about a year ago or whenever it was. It just looked like an interesting driveway, and so I slowed down to see, that looks nice, I wonder what's up there. I imagined it would be some sort of equestrian thing, and then I saw the sign, Holland and Holland shooting grounds or something, and I thought, let's go and have a look at that. Ended up having a coffee in there and a mocha and various other things. I actually walked out without paying. I got so comfortable in there that I actually walked out without paying. I ended up taking a phone call from someone, and it became a long phone call, and they literally turfed me out. It's like, we're actually closed now. So I was like, okay, fine. And I sort of wanted to have a last little look around before I left, but I was sort of on the phone and they were closing down, so I wandered off. And then when I got home, I think it was, I remembered, and they were obviously shut. And I was so embarrassed. I think I went on their website and sent them a form on their website saying, I appear to have forgotten to pay. I'll be back to pay. Anyway, I went back there and we sort of had a laugh about it, and they actually let me off that one. They said, we'll have to pay for the next one though. So anyway, I gave them a nice review. But anyway, so that's what you can hear. If I wasn't speaking, that's what you could hear anyway. The bang, bang, bang up in the background. They have beautiful, really lovely little, is he a beagle or is he a spaniel? Not sure, can't remember now. But anyway, beautiful little gun dog called Gary the gun dog. Brilliant. I did know an Alsatian called Dave once. Didn't actually know the name, couldn't remember the name of the owner, but Dave didn't like people looking at the car. So Dave's name got remembered. Dave the Alsatian, and Gary the gun dog. I feel a book coming on. Do you know what I'm going to share? This is quite interesting. This is the second person who's been walking where I am and has turned away and hot-tailed it the other way. I mean, okay, well, this is a woman on her own, but I mean, this is, maybe I shouldn't say this because famous last words and everything, but I tend to think that it's a rather safe part of the world around here. But anyway, fair play to her, but it's quite disappointing. It makes us stand there and sort of think, well, what does that say about me or my presence anyway? Perhaps I'm not the big fluffy giant or bear or whatever that I feel that I am. Dear. Anyhow, I'm just rambling now. I sort of feel like I need to hang back for a little while, let her get away. I mean, that would probably finish her off, wouldn't it, if I start following her now? So let's have a little bit more of a wander then. I can't go into the interesting spot over there because behind that first little rack of trees is Moore Park golf course, and as I say, that's private, and they get quite interested in asserting their perceived rights. Fair enough. I think landowners all over the world would, or certainly in this country, would know probably the feeling. I have a let's say a family member who has a footpath over his land, and people do tend to wander off it slightly, sometimes even with a fishing rod in their hand, which lands in a bit of his water and removes some of his stock. I mean, you just got to assume, first thing you assume is like, well, that's not nice. He wanted to fish those. Maybe he didn't want to fish them. Maybe they were pets. Maybe it was a goldfish called Gary, you know. Somebody nicked Gary the goldfish and then ate it. I mean, I don't think people eat goldfish, do they? Even the big ones. But anyway, whatever. So, yeah, anyway, so we're like a week before Christmas now. This is Christmas Eve. I couldn't say Eve, could you? What would you say? Christmas Eve penultimate week. It's not really a word for it, is it? Anyway, this is a week before Christmas Eve 2022, and I'm doing this for you. Probably doing it for me as well, but I've got loads of footage of here, but I haven't been up here in the snow for a while. The sun, that doesn't really make sense. The sun's obviously not going down over there, but there's a red sky over there. I think in a couple of days' time it's going to go up as high as 10, 11, 12, maybe even 13 around here. So this lot will all be gone by the start of the week. So, yeah. It was a bit cold this morning. I took a little while to get out of bed, to persuade myself to get out of bed, and just basically went to the loo, came back and sort of stopped off via my laptop, not my laptop, my desktop machine, and started just doing some bits and pieces on there, send out some emails and various other things. Anyway, best part of 2 hours later, I'm sitting there shivering, freezing cold. So I've gone from taking half an hour to get out of bed because it's too cold to spending 2 hours. I don't even think I had any slippers or anything on, just sitting there bashing around with the computer. So much so I got back into bed again and I just couldn't get warm, and I thought, yeah, I can't really, I mean, we've all done that, haven't we? But it's just, isn't that just funny, isn't it? So it was cold, not quite as well. I think it was, probably went to -6 last night. It was -5 the last time I looked. Came out to the car yesterday, it was -4, and I had to thaw it out. I hadn't used it all week. But yeah, you know, maybe that woman had a dog and the dog just likes to jump up or something, but I don't think so. There were a couple that were sort of following me, and I walked over into the golf course here, and when I turned around to sort of view this, I saw them both standing looking up towards me, and they turned around and went away. And then just same things happened with this woman. So for me, there are probably plenty of people around who wouldn't even notice or wouldn't care, wouldn't bother them. But I'm not going to say, oh, I wouldn't want to, you know, make her feel insecure. Of course I wouldn't, but I'm not going to say that. It's like virtue signalling or something, isn't it? But I will say I find it disappointing personally as well. I think there's a time and a place, I suppose, to be considered to be dangerous, But when I'm now with a runny nose, freezing cold, up on a golf course in the snow, yeah, I would hope that most people wouldn't find that too threatening. But anyway, there you go. My favourite, probably, I think it probably must be my favourite house. Depends which way you look at it. You have a favourite house and you think, but actually I wouldn't live in it though. But, but it is amazing for whatever reason. But I don't know if I would live in it or not, but you can't probably really see. Can I zoom in this side? Can't zoom in. But up there's almost looks like a Frank Lloyd Wright knockoff property. Quite a modern looking sort of, block of flats, coupe style. Anyway, I just imagine it being quite minimalist inside, and because there's lots of aspects and windows and stuff to it, I can imagine it's also happens to be probably the highest point up here. I'm pretty sure it's all about being inside it, looking out, and you'd look out on all of this. You'd be surrounded 360 degrees surrounded by a golf course, because where those houses are, the golf course is even bigger, goes back, there's even more of it. There's more, like, this is a slither compared to how much of it there is back that way. So in that house at the top point here, you've got probably unrestricted 360 degree views all the way around of all of this. That's in the distance, and what's in the immediate vicinity is a lot of golf course, or a lot of golf courses actually, because all in all, this is 2 golf courses here, and there's at least one, I think maybe 2 over that side. And then you might even be able to see out beyond that. I'm not quite sure. There's another golf course, Batchworth I think it is, over that way as well. I'm not sure. You might be able to see bits and pieces of it. But on top of that, what you also have is Moor Park Mansion, very lovely looking, sort of almost like stately home looking thing, and a lake, quite a small lake really, but a lake just in front of it, all of the same. And if you can see any houses, you're probably not really overlooked, and they probably look quite picturesque too. So I would imagine that's quite the place. It was, a few years ago, was up for sale and rent, and the owner was just going to do whichever happened, and it got rented. So it's still, as far as I'm aware, it hasn't come on the market for a while. It would probably be, I would imagine, I don't know, it could probably be 5-6 million or something if it came up. And it may even get smacked down and something else put up there. But if that did happen, well, I'd like to say I hope it would be something just as expensive, not expensive, well, expensive too, I guess. But of course, what do I care if I'm not going to enjoy it myself? But it's nice to think of the idea of going in it one day and having a look around, or buying it, knowing someone who has it, whatever. I do have some friends around here. I have had a little look in some of the properties around here, but that one in particular I like. And I completely understand that most people wouldn't like it. They just look at it and think, oh, it's ugly, it looks like a block of flats or whatever. But the thing is, these sort of quaint little English chocolate box properties, they're they're tight. They have little windows, small ceilings, and they're just all twisty and turny, and you can never get a stride on. If you no matter how big it is, it doesn't necessarily look big or feel big. I like to have space, you know, and the feeling of it. And then of course the mock Tudor ones, which do have taller ceilings because they were built later. You know, they're a fashion accessory, aren't they? They seem like they get knocked down every 20 years as well. But anyway, that's just me. So I suppose I could go down the road and come out the other way. I think I'm gonna pause for a second and flip the camera around, because you don't need to be seeing me, do you, really? So here we go. It's a bugbear of mine that you can't flip the camera around when you're actually recording in on an iPhone. Probably some reasonably well-considered professional reason for that. But you know, I would say a professional might have a professional camera rather than a phone. But anyway, if I do a live, the signal up here isn't so good, so you end up, it's a bit, the quality of the video ends up being a bit rubbish. So right, and I think what I'm gonna do actually, I was gonna go and walk along here, because this is still public, and then that way there's a little alleyway that I can come out on. But I'm thinking about it, and I should have done, but I didn't even really think about it when I was over there, and that is that you know, you have to sort of maybe consider the grounds when the weather's like this. But then again, I see a guy with his dog, so maybe I'll walk it as well. Speaking of gun dogs, so yeah, it's roped off. I don't feel that, now I've sort of thought about it, I don't really feel that good about walking over the golf course when the ground's in this sort of state. And to be honest with you, it's not really, because that's Watford at the back there, and it would seem that the snow and everything has melted there, so it's not really, doesn't really look that great. Maybe it does. I mean, I'm saying that I'm not going this way, but you and I both know that we are. So it's been a while since I've done this, actually. The problem I've got now is that I'm really running out of cloud storage space because of the amount of the size of my photo library, and I can sort that out, but there are so many other things that need to be sorted out that I could do without having to do that right now, because that is, you know, a proper sit down at the machine, or 2 or 3 other drives as well that I have to work with, and yeah, I think I'll end up videos that I've made, you know, normally I'll keep the raw sort of footage, but now I think a lot of the stuff I might, if it doesn't get used, I might just bin the scraps, if you like. because 4K obviously does take up quite a bit of storage, and yeah. Well, anyway, I have ended up here. My fingers are pretty cold. I'm swapping hands to give them a chance to warm up. I did think of bringing some gloves. Oh, I can see there are buggy marks, so maybe I shouldn't feel so bad. But this road now, along here, that is a private road, allegedly, and across the back there as well. But this is still a public golf course. Yeah, so not that it really makes too much difference to the average guy in the street, if you know what I mean, because of the nature of this area with its shops and the train station, then you have the right to walk around here anyway. So yeah, but just for the record, yeah, these roads here are not maintained at public expense. They're maintained by a road fund club that's formed itself into a management company, and the owners of the properties here are apparently bound by their deeds on the properties to be members of the road fund club and pay a certain number of pounds for every foot of width that their property is annually into what I guess would be called a sinking fund, to maybe not a sinking fund, but anyway, to basically into a slush fund to pay for the maintenance of the roads and the verges and the lighting, that kind of thing. They had the gritters out the other day, so yeah, they do that kind of stuff. And oddly enough, further up the road where we first were, that's Aston's Road, this along here is Pembroke Road, and that's Sandy Lodge Road. Yeah. But even the owners on Aston's Road, for some strange reason, even though they're not on a private road, they also have to be members of this road fund club, and pay their, £700, £800, £900 a year or whatever, which is not a big deal, of course, but it's strange that they don't live on a private road, but they have to make a contribution to the roads that surround them. Apparently one or two people have managed to wriggle out of it, probably not for financial reasons. It's, I would imagine, more to do with some sort of game they got into with one of the administrators or whatever, one of, the chairman of the road fund club or something. Having lived here for quite some time and having done my community bit here and there on various levels, did get to know quite a bit. I have gotten to know quite a bit of some of the shenanigans that have gone on around here, and I know there's one house on here that's inside the conservation area, but is literally it's almost like an island. It's avoided as in terms of membership of this road fund club, and the borders of those two things are almost identical in terms of the conservation area and the membership of this club, except for one or two odd points, and one of them is this one particular house. And I just know that the way that it's specifically avoided this one property, that there's so definitely a story behind that, some sort of dispute or little game of like, I don't want to be in your club, you know, you didn't put my house inside that boundary. Something along those lines. It's quite funny in that house, because the guy has a carriage driveway that's on the corner of his property, so it's the only house in this street where you can actually get out and come in to the estate, because the road just next to him is blocked off, but because of the way his drive is, he can come in, drive through his drive and get into the road where no one else can without trespassing on his property. And he's been, well, I wouldn't say he has been, but if you look on the map of the conservation area and you look on the map of the boundaries of the Moore Park quote unquote estate, you'll see that they're very, very similar, except for, like I say, this one particular house where it literally just goes around the back of this house. It excludes this house. So everyone can be a member except him. And whether he has said that or whether they have said that, I don't know. But for me, I'm quite tickled by it. I'd be quite interested to know what that was all about. I almost like the guy already. But anyway. So here we go then. This is just a little, I think a lot of people don't, I get the feeling a lot of people who live here don't actually even know this. Quite often it gets a bit overgrown. In actual fact, I'm looking at it now, and I don't know if it's just because of the time of year and things have died, or if things have been cut back. I can't see any evidence of it being cut, but I know it has. Well, that's good, because it was getting overgrown. I was going to say something, because it is, of course, a public right of way. So use it or lose it, as the saying goes. And wow, it'd be nice if the foxes and rabbits put little signs up saying beware. Anyway, so you don't tread in them. So that's Pembroke, that goes up to Aston's. This is Wolsey Road. And I'm gonna love you and leave you at this point, because I want to warm my hands up and just get on with going back now. But there you go, a little jaunt out onto the golf course. Hope you enjoyed it, and of course, if I don't ever post this, then you can't enjoy it, can you? Maybe I'll chop it up, maybe I'll leave it uncut, but you should probably get to see it. It's a nice part of the world, especially this time of year. Alright, so you get to see me again. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, ask me some questions. See you in the next one. Cheers.